Hello and welcome to the Franchise Tag Betting Show, proudly sponsored by 888 Sport, the home of betting on the NFL in the UK and Ireland. Remember, guys, be gamble aware and 18s only. Adam, it's the conference championships. We've made it this far. It's all down to this now, to who reaches the Super Bowl. You've got to be excited for these two games, surely.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably be quite exciting, won't it? No, in all seriousness, we've got two really good games to look forward to on Sunday. They both look like they're going to be very close games for different reasons, and it's exciting, an exciting weekend. I always kind of feel like it starts to dampen out a little bit because obviously you haven't got all the games, but these two look like really good games.
Yeah, I suppose for a neutral as well, you've got a few teams in there that are going to have quite a good bit of backing. I know for me, obviously, my team didn't quite make it, but there's a couple of teams in here I'm really buzzing. I really want them to do well. So we haven't had that in previous years because it's just been like the Patriots every year. So, we just got a bit like, oh, okay, it's them again. But it's nice to see these up and coming teams and teams creating something of their franchise. So, should we get into it and take everyone through all their betting needs for this weekend?
Go for it.
Right, here we are. We're right there. 888 Sport. First game up, the San Francisco 49ers at the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, so NFC Championship game. Have to say, not overly shocked that either of these two teams have made it, given how well-rounded they both are. I think that's one thing that you can really say for both of these teams. They have a lot of players in the right areas, well stacked across all sides of the ball, and so I think it's going to be a very close game. The one thing that I do like is if you just look at the sort of, the spread is +2.5 to the 49ers at the moment. I personally like the Eagles for this. I think the Eagles at home, I think they've got a very good chance of winning it. So I'm kind of like keeping my flag to the mast with the Eagles at the moment. I like the -2.5. It's less than a field goal, so it's certainly worth having a look at. So I think that's definitely one to go at 17 to 20 even. So that's definitely worth it. And I do like the Eagles at -2.5 at 17 to 20. And then the under, I think this is going to be a game with two really strong defenses. They're going to sort of bring the offenses down a little bit, I think, in this one. We know that the 49ers' strength is the defense. We know that the Eagles have got a pretty good defense as well. Struggle a little bit against the run, but they do still do pretty well against it. So I think the under is certainly worth taking at under 46.5 at 10 to 11. After that, I think when you start looking at touchdown scorers, for me on the 49ers side, I think if you've been watching any of our episodes, it's the same people. It really is. To me, it's Christian McCaffrey at 5 to 6. Going up against the Eagles defense, who are 18th against rushing touchdowns. That is the weakness stat out of all the defenses. It is them giving up rushing touchdowns. They can be got in that way. So CMC at 5 to 6, I think, is worth having a look at. And then, we know the guy. We know who Purdy goes to. He goes to Kittle. And it's like, you already know this because you've already gone to click on it. And it's going to happen again. You just know that is where most of it's going to happen. And in that last game against the Cowboys, they were in a bit of, I wouldn't say they were in trouble, but it felt like it was very, very close. And then the defense made a couple of really good plays. They got the ball back, and I think there was 2 passes to Kittle across the middle of the field, which made the difference and got that touchdown. And he's just the guy that Purdy looks at. He just is. And although that Deebo Samuel has got a lot of yards, when it comes to touchdowns, Kittle is the guy that he goes to a lot. He scored 7 touchdowns in the last 4 games of the season. He didn't score a couple of weeks ago, but he still looks really good price at 15-8. So that's the one on the 49ers that I like the look of. When it comes to the Eagles side of it, I feel like you're going up against this strong 49ers defense, and I just feel that the Eagles are going to have this problem where they're going to mark AJ Brown out of it. I think that's the guy they're going to pick. He's the number 1 wide receiver, and it just opens up the others. And so for me, I like Devonta Smith at 6-4. He got the touchdown last week. I think he can get another one this week. And Dallas Goedert at 2-1. I think they are the two that you want to look at when it comes to touchdown scorers in this particular game. But I really do like Devonta Smith. I think it's funny. I mean, we'll talk about the Bengals and the Chiefs game later, but we always go on about Chase and Higgins and how good these two are. I think that, Brown and Smith are just as good. And normally what happens is the opposition try and take out who is perceived as the number 1 choice. And on the Eagles side, it is AJ Brown. He is perceived as the number 1 choice. So it just opens up Smith. But Smith is more than capable of being a wide receiver 1 on any team. So really like Smith at 6-4. Really like the Eagles at -2.5. I think that's a decent price. And the under, I think these defenses are really going to sort of make an impact on the offenses. And it might not be the most entertaining, exciting game, but you've got that later.
So you're going with the Eagles for this one. You think that's where your head's at? I know we spoke about this in our little group chat anyway. It's one of the first disagreements that me and you have had across the playoffs this is, isn't it, really? Because I'm sticking with the 49ers because they've won 10 straight. And they look unstoppable since they've found this new system, this new personnel that's gone forward with them. Whereas we've seen the Eagles come unstuck against a couple of teams with strong defenses. We saw them come up a little bit. They struggled against the Colts. They struggled against the Commanders with a really good front seven. They tend to have tough games against teams with good front sevens, and for me, the 49ers have got that. They're the number 1 defense in the league. So that's for me where I'm getting the swing, because I know that the Eagles have looked impressive. I know they've demolished people, but the 49ers have as well. On that winning streak that they had towards the end of the season, they double-digited quite a few of those games as well, didn't they? So I can't see how they're going to get stopped. I don't see what do you think is the Eagles are going to do to stop this 49ers team? Why are you going towards the Eagles?
Because I think that Purdy is going to break. I think this is finally you're seeing it. You didn't see it against Seattle. He was at home against Seattle and he looked good. And they were clear in that game. It didn't really feel like there was much pressure on them. I think that Dallas game last week was the first time there was any genuine pressure on him, where he suddenly went, "Oh Jesus, I'm in the playoffs, and I'm at home, and we're expected to win this game." And I felt like he started to bulk a little bit, and he started to struggle, and some of the decisions weren't quite as good as what they had been in previous games, and that was something that we hadn't seen before. And Robbie Gould kicked, was it 4 field goals? They got 19 points, so 12 of them came from the kicker. Now, I'm not, obviously Purdy's had to help get the ball there, obviously, but the point is that he hasn't got the touchdowns in him. That is the concern. He's a quarterback that realistically, when we had him in fantasy and stuff like that, we were all going, we want 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's all we want from this guy. And he was doing it every week. It wasn't a problem. So everyone was thinking, oh, actually, do you know what? He's doing pretty well. He's not doing too bad. He has done well. And we all come out and go with the scheme is kind of the reason that it's happening rather than the man. now you've got pressure involved in it. And I just think away to a team like the Eagles in that stadium with that crowd going at him all game long, I think that's going to be where he cracks a little bit. And that's going to be the problem. Now, obviously, they still have a great run game. But you saw with the Cowboys, it is possible to restrict Christian McCaffrey. That has got to give the Eagles some hope because of that. And so I just feel like you're going to start seeing the cracks with Purdy, and it's not going to go quite as well. So in reality, it's more that I'm laying the 49ers rather than backing the Eagles. But I just feel that the Eagles are going to get enough points, and they've got that little bit more experience with Jalen Hurts as the quarterback.
Yeah, I think that Elijah Mitchell's got healthy at the right time for them. I think he's been really good the last 2 games. I think last game especially, he was the lead back for them in terms of yards. So I think Brock Purdy's going to be able to hand the ball. If he is struggling through the air, he's going to be able to hand the ball off to the run game. And we have seen, although it's been better since Ndamukong Suh and Jordan Davis have paired up in that interior, they have managed to stop the run a bit more. We did say all season that that was their weak point. And Elijah Mitchell and Christian McCaffrey, to me, are 2 guys that can really hurt you in the ground game, because they're such different style runners as well, that that can be the way forward for them to help Purdy out, and then Purdy just make some of the more move the chains plays rather than having the big plays. So, yeah, we're split on this game.
It's all about him making the correct choices when the pressure's on. That's what it's going to be. I mean, to be brutally honest, when you look at both of these games, they are coin flip games. They really are. I mean, it could go either way. It is kind of like, I mean, I could easily come out and come up with an argument why I think the 49ers are winning it. It's just that the one to me that just seems the strongest one of the lot is that Purdy finally cracks under the pressure on this one. So I just feel like that's the thing. I do like Mitchell. Mitchell is someone that I did sort of put down and think to myself, yeah, maybe he might be able to get in. I just feel like they're going to rely a bit too much on Christian McCaffrey in that respect. I think when you have that, you know, you're in that position, you're going to have your number 1 guy out there. And that's what kind of puts me off of Mitchell a little bit. So, I mean, he's a good price. He's 14-5, but that's the only concern with Mitchell. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be a really tight game. And like I said at the beginning, it's no real shocker that both of these teams are there.
Yeah, I suppose it's hard at this point when there is only 2 games, 4 teams, not to have a bit of who you want to win rather than who you think you should win. Especially for me, obviously, I really don't want to see the Eagles win. So I might be trying to find arguments in there. But yeah, I just thought prior to going into the, if it was anybody else, I just felt like 49ers going into the playoffs were a bit of a force to reckon with. So I've just stuck with them and feel like that's enough for them to get over the line and get to the Super Bowl. On to the next game, Adam, the Cincinnati, the one that we all, you're touting as the big game, the prime time. The Cincinnati Bengals at the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, so it's quite interesting because obviously we neither of us were on the show on Tuesday night that we did, and I was listening to it earlier today, and Freddie was going about how much the 49ers and Eagles game is the big game because he's into that sort of, defensive battle and stuff like that. I'm the touchdown guy. Yeah. This is the game that I want to be watching. So the Bengals against the Chiefs, I think there's a strong potential this could be a bit of a shootout. I really do. It's like we've seen it before when these two teams have come together. And I'm going to go with the history because I do like to go with the history unless it's against Brady this year. But, Joe Burrow is 3-0 at Arrowhead. And apparently they're calling it Burrowhead now, aren't they? Is something they're going on about. So I think the Bengals take this one. I like the look of the Bengals in this game. I feel like last week, the one thing I said was I felt like they were being disrespected. They were plus 5.5 against the, when it came to the handicap against the Bills. And me and Fred were just both sitting here just going, why? Like, why? It didn't make any sense. And again, it's a weird one. You look at it, and I mean, it really does depend what site you're on. But with AA8, you can get plus, is it 2.5? I think it is for the Bengals. Yeah, no, maybe. Is it plus 2.5?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I don't get. I just don't get it at all. I know they're away, but they've got this record there, and plus 2.5 at that price, at 4 to 5 is, yeah, I'll be all over that. And I think that's a really good bet. I do think this is potentially going to be a shootout, so I like the over as well. So if you want to go for that, I think that's certainly worth a look. It was 46.5 yesterday. I think it's now gone up to 47.5. I still think the over's good for it at the moment. So if you want to go for that, that's a good price as well. When it comes to the touchdown scorers, I mean, it really is kind of take your pick on everyone. I mean, it really is. There's so many guys here. The Chiefs defense during the season, 32nd against giving up passing touchdowns. Been saying it every week. It's the way forward. You've got to go for the wide receivers of these guys. And for the Bengals, I mean, you've got Jamar Chase at 19 to 20, which it's a decent price for Chase. He's always the first read of Burrow, so that's one to look at for. T. Higgins, exactly the same thing as Devonta Smith. I think you're looking at a guy at 6 to 4, same price as Smith. I think that they are both strong options, and so I like Higgins in this at 6 to 4. He hasn't scored as much in the playoffs. He seems to have dipped off a little bit, but he's still a good price. Hayden Hurst came out last week and scored. Looked good. Looked fit for probably the first time in ages. So 12 to 5 for him. And then just because we keep doing it, we're going to stay in the flames. He nearly had one last week as well. He was right on the goal line, and they gave it to Mixon, which was so depressing. Joe Burrow at 4 to 1, anytime touchdown. I think he's definitely got a good chance of getting in. I know that the Chiefs are a lot better against the run, but I just feel like you could still have a breakdown of that happening. And yeah, so I like Joe Burrow at 4 to 1 on the Bengals side. On the Chiefs side, it's a bit harder because you're going up against this Bengals defense that are pretty strong, to be honest. I think it's something that they're not being touted as such a strong defense, but they really are. The obvious one is Kelce at even money. I think if you like Kelce, it's a really good price for Kelce. Normally he's odds on, so even money is a decent price. I quite like McKinnon. We've been saying McKinnon a lot over the end of the season and the playoffs. He's 11 to 8, so he's not a bad price. He didn't get anything last week, and it's going to be difficult, I think, for McKinnon against this defense who just seem to be bottling up everyone at the moment. But McKinnon at 11 to 8 is someone. I do think it's going to be a shootout. So this is a complete punt on MVS, just over the top. I could see that happening at 100 to 30. And that's it, to be honest. When you look at all the others, there's not really anyone else there. There are more guys for this game just because it feels like it's got a bigger score to it. But I'm not really mega keen on anyone else. I'm not particularly keen on Mixon. I said it last week and he scored, but I'm just not. I think that the Chiefs defense, they're 6th against giving up rushing touchdowns this season. I think they're going to be strong at that. And what will happen is they'll give up the passing yards and the passing touchdowns as they always do. So I'm not particularly keen on Mixon. I think the Bengals win it.
Yeah, we're back to agreeing then. It's Bengals to me as well. This game is now officially the modern era of Manning versus Brady, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's so if this has got to be the most exciting game, because that legacy, I think, of these two coming up against each other is just going to happen every single year, and we're going to be talking about it every year. So this is the new Manning Brady game. So I agree that this is the big one. I do have the Bengals winning it. I do like them for it. Again, before the playoffs started, like the 49ers, I was very hot on the Bengals. And I watched their first game and saw their O-line get injured, and I was really concerned about it against the Bills. And I was a little bit concerned about Jackson Carman moving to tackle. But he played really well. He played really, really well against the Bills. I was really impressed by him. So it obviously just needed some time to adapt mid-game when he was from the first against the Ravens. So have no doubts now with it. Liked how it worked. Think the Bengals are going to be back to themselves. I think we're going to see Higgins back to himself. Obviously, you say he's been quiet in the playoffs. I think that's because the first game, the O-line was all over the shop, and Burrow got sacked a lot and couldn't get the ball out, so he went missing. And last week was a snow game, so so this game, Higgins back in the end zone for me. Really like those odds at 6-4. He's a big guy, big receiver. I think he'll see a lot of the ball throughout the game, and I agree it's going to be a big shootout in this one as well. I don't really. I do this every year with the Chiefs. I think they're always good. They always play well. They always win, and they win those like dirty games that they probably shouldn't, which is always a good indication that that's the team that's probably going to win the whole thing. Why am I never any season hot on the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl? What is it about them that I can't commit to saying they're going to go all the way, despite the fact they are good every year?
I think probably the biggest issue with them is that there's always a weakness. I think that's the thing. You can, and a glaring one as well. And it just feels like because of that you're going to get caught eventually by one team in a one-off game that's more all-round sort of like better. I think that's the problem. So, like I say, with the Chiefs, the biggest concern is that they can be caught through passing touchdowns. They haven't been great through the season. Now, that's fine if you can outscore everyone, which more often than not you can. But when you start going into playoff games and you start going up against these really, really good teams who, because you sort of think to yourself, well, Mahomes is one of the best quarterbacks in the game. Well, so's Burrow. So, it's not irrelevant, but it's a match. They kind of, take each other out in that respect. But you have to start looking at where the weaknesses are. And you could say that the O-line of the Bengals is their weakness, but it looked pretty good against the Bills last week. And so you just sort of think, well, if you can go away to the Bills and do that, I reckon you could probably do pretty well against the Chiefs. And then you do sort of look at the Chiefs as a whole and you go, well, the offense is pretty decent, all round. The O-line's looking not too bad. Obviously, Mahomes is great. They've got a couple of decent running backs. You've got Kelsey. The wide receivers are not fantastic. They're not like Higgins and Chase or Smith and Brown, but they are still pretty good. And then you sort of go to the defense and you sort of think, well, they stopped the run pretty well, but here's where the weakness is, and it's against the pass, and they just can't stop that. And I think because of that, that teams are going to exploit it. Well, it's all right if you're playing against, I don't know, the Panthers or the Falcons or, the Jets or the Jags, who are, they're good teams, some of these teams, but they're not the top team. The Bengals are a top team now. And that's something that you have to, everyone kind of has to realise that they are a top team and that people have been disrespecting them. And, you got to remember they were in the Super Bowl last year,
Yep.
so they can't be that bad sort of thing. And I think because of that, they're going to be able to exploit it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people didn't know whether last year was a fluke and whether it was just everything clicked for them that one year. But I think what they
It's
achieved,
not.
well, I think what all of us thought they had a good chance of getting there again before the season started. And I think what they've achieved during the regular season indicated that they were the real deal as well. So I don't know why they have been, as we say, a little bit disrespected through the playoffs. So
I think most teams drop off, don't they, after being in the Super Bowl? It's quite rare that they don't. And then they went 0-2 at the beginning, and they were 4-4, and you kind of just felt a little bit like, I don't think they're going to do it. And the Ravens were looking decent, and you just sort of thought, yeah, this isn't going to happen for them. And then they've just gone on this massive run of winning games, and that's kind of the end of it. And it's like they've just sort of like come back and shown how good they really are. So I think that's what it is. It's almost like you're looking for a reason to disrespect them. But the problem is you can't. No.
Adam, have you got any bets for us? Any big bets for us for these games?
So we did a couple of bet builders, because if you bet with 888, then we've got one for each game. So if you bet with 888, then you can have your bet builder. You can have a maximum bet of £20, and if it loses, you will get that money back as free bets. So you're gonna want to do it, because you might as well do it with 888, because you get your money back as free bets. So why not?
Why not?
The way forward. You wouldn't want to waste your money with another company if you can get your money back. So
it's a no-brainer.
Right. So with the Bengals Chiefs game, as we're on it, what I went for the Bengals plus 1.5. I think they'll win it. So why not just take the extra insurance with the plus 1.5? I think the over will come in at over 47.5. I think it'll be a shootout. We're probably hoping more than anything that it will be, but I think it will be. And then when it comes to touchdown scorer, I got a couple of different ones. I like Higgins, but it is a bit shorter, I will admit. So if you went for Higgins on it, then I think you're looking at about, is it 23-4? So it's a bit short on that one. But the other one that I kind of like the look of was Hayden Hurst at a slightly bigger price, which works out at 33-4. So I think that's definitely one that you can look at there. Like we said, Hurst seems to be, he just looks fitter, looks healthy, ready to go. So I think that he's got a good chance of scoring a touchdown in this game. Scored against the Bills. So yeah, I think that sort of price, 8-1, it's a little bit bigger. I think that's worth having a look at. Do you want to go on to the Eagles one?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go on to the Eagles one, and then I've got a couple of bet builders that I've created. And
Okay, right. So for the 49ers Eagles game, again, pretty basic ones really. So we're going to keep it simple. Go for the Eagles minus 2.5, because we like the Eagles to win this, and it's less than a field goal, so it's worth going for. So Eagles minus 2.5 is a good one. Think it'll be a close game with the defenses taking over. So I like the under 46.5 for this one. And then, as I said earlier, AJ Brown is the guy who's going to get marked out of this. Devonta Smith at 6-4 is a really good price to score. So you put all them together, 8-1.
Very nice, very good. Too short odds for me, aren't they? But
yeah, for you, obviously. But coming in brains. What have you got?
I've done one for each game, so we can have a little competition here and see who pays off here. I mean, what you got to lose, as we've said, you get your money back if you lose. Also, I want to point out something interesting. On 888, when you go to the bet builder to start, why does it have the example to be Patriots to win?
I mean, I don't know. I can't help you with that. Patriots win over 41.5.
I could just shout mine out. Do you want me to just tell you what I had? Save us going through it. So
Oh, it's up to you. It's up to you.
I've got 49ers win.
Oh, you've lost already.
George Kittle anytime.
Okay.
Christian McCaffrey over 65.5 yards rushing, and Nick Bosa to have a sack at 10-1.
I mean, it's like 2 points ahead of mine. You said you wanted bigger odds.
Well, yeah, I just I didn't know what you had. I did mine prior to coming on. I thought I'd give you something to think about. Like I said, they're giving you money back if you lose. So I thought, why not me build one for the guys, see how well I can do against you, Adam, with a bit of a competition. So is there anything in there? I know you don't think the 49ers are going to win. So obviously you might steer away from that. But let's live in a world where you do think the 49ers are going to win. Do you like the other things that are in that bet, Bill? Do you think the Nick Bosa one sack is
yeah?
You think that
yeah. I think Bosa is more than capable of getting one sack. Kittle, obviously, 15-8. We mentioned him before. I think has got a really good chance of scoring. He is the one that Purdy goes to, I think. So that's worth it. And what? How many yards for CMC?
64.5.
Yeah, so he struggled, didn't he, against the Cowboys last week? So that's the concern. But I do feel like you can run a little bit more on this Eagles defense than you could on the Cowboys one. Yeah. So yeah, I mean they're all pretty plausible ones. Unfortunately, you've lost though because the 49ers aren't going to win. So it's unfortunate.
It is. We'll see. So if they do win, happy days. And my Chiefs-Bengals game, I had Bengals win, Higgins anytime, Higgins to have 5 or more receptions, Mixon to have over 54.5 yards, and Burrow to throw over 280 yards at 11-1.
Now, I kept seeing this. I was having a look in 888's match combos. 280 yards for Burrow seems to be the number. More than capable of doing it, and as we've said, the Chiefs, you can beat them with the pass. Does feel like a lot though to me. It feels like a lot of yards, and maybe that's because last week we were very much like, they're going to be throwing it all over the place, and then it snowed and that was it. So maybe we've sort of reined it in a bit, but 280 does feel like a lot. I like Higgins to score. Was it over 5 receptions?
5 or more. So you get it
5 or more. Mm-hmm. So yeah, 5 for Higgins kind of would seem logical. That's not too bad. What was the rest?
Mixon over 54.5 rushing yards, and Bengals win.
Bengals win, obviously. That's fine. Mixon, yeah, you're going up against the sixth best against rushing touchdowns. So I know it's not yards, but they're pretty strong against the run. That might be a bit of a concern. I
didn't think 54 yards was.
It's not overly, too much, is it?
I didn't think I was overly pushing that, considering he had a great game last week in rushing. So against a team that's good against the rush as well. So
yeah. No, they're not bad. They're both, we'll see. Hopefully one of them comes in.
Hopefully,
listen to him. On occasion, you come up with a good one. So
I know. I usually pull out some corkers over the season, so boost your reputation a bit. If I have to pull you through 1 week,
I'm surprised you haven't gone for the Burrow Hurts rushing touchdown from quarterbacks double.
No, if I had the quarterbacks, I'd probably just chuck Purdy in there just for the odds. Yeah, so that's the games, that's the bets. I like that we've got a little competition between the two of us going on this week that could be interesting. Best of luck to the teams. If your team's in this game, really looking forward to it, and we'll see who was right about the 49ers Eagles game as well, because one of us has got to be right in that game. We could both be wrong in the other game, so that'd be interesting. Next week, as always, back on the Tuesday, back on the Thursday, and I'm sure we'll do another show.
Betting show. I don't know if we will next week because I mean, what are we going to be betting on? So there's not going to be any. I would have thought we'd save the Super Bowl till the week after. I think will probably be what we do. So it might be a week off from the betting show, but we will be back with the chat show, obviously, and like you say, Tuesday night, and we will be back with fantasy. We'll be looking at the tight ends and how they did last season.
And if you are missing us and you can't keep away and you want more content from us, Gareth is still putting out and getting the hype and getting on the train for the XFL. He keeps getting some absolutely insane interviews with a lot of the players that are currently going to be going into the XFL this year. So hop onto our website at franchisetag.co.uk, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You'll find it on there. Give them a watch if you're missing the betting show next week, and get into the XFL and get behind it. But till then, guys, thanks for joining, and see you.